Do you think that renting in London is just throwing your money away? Well, think again. As a financial planner who chooses to rent in London whilst owning property elsewhere, I've got a surprising take which could make you change your mind about the property market in 2024. In this video, I'll break down the pros and cons of both renting and buying in London. My name is Ash. I am a financial planner based in London. I help my clients make informed financial decisions to make sure that they are living their ideal lifestyles. If you're interested in booking in a free discovery call with me, head to the description and you'll find a link to book that in. The pros of renting in London. Flexibility. London is a fast-moving city, and in recent years, people have become accustomed to moving jobs every few years. Renting allows you to move to a new place with minimal friction, a lower barrier to entry. Renting usually only requires a deposit of 5 to 6 weeks worth of rent, compared to 10 to 20% of the value of a house to buy it, which in London's property market could mean that you are left with no savings at all. No maintenance worries. London is full of old properties, and I'm sure that you've heard of the horror stories before for things going wrong in people's homes. Renting means that the responsibility of fixing these issues is not down to you, it's down to your landlord. Recently, I've heard stories of boilers breaking, roofs needing replacements, which can all mean thousands and thousands of pounds, let alone the effort and stress of having to organize it all. Access to prime locations. Renting means that you are flexible and able to live in the most desirable locations, which you might ordinarily be priced out of if you were trying to buy there. The cons of renting in London. Missing out on property growth. London's property market has historically grown at an astronomical rate, and as a renter, you'll often miss out on the appreciation of any kind of assets. However, a caveat here is that you don't necessarily need to own a property in London or even the property that you live in to experience capital appreciation. I myself own a property outside of London, and I hope to benefit from the gains on that property instead of the one that I'm currently living in. Market instability. London's rental market is seriously competitive right now. As a renter, you often feel uncertain about whether you could even stay in the property that you're in next year. Landlords can often raise rents because they know that the demand is out there, which could mean that you're paying increasingly more rent each year, and you also lack the security to be in control of that. I myself had my rent increased by £100 a month this year, which might sound like a lot, but it actually was a bargain compared to how much rent prices have actually increased in general in London. Limited personalisation. Most rental properties in London impose strict rules and guidelines on what you can actually do with the property. Even things like hanging up posters can be troublesome, so you need to make sure that you're doing it within the landlord's permission. This can make the rental property that you're staying in not really feel like a home, so if that's important to you, then it might be worth considering buying. Personally, over the course of the last year, we've been able to make this rental property our home, as you can see from the posters behind me. Dependence on the landlord. When things go wrong in our flat, we often need to reach out to the landlord to fix it. But this means that there's a lot of back and forth between us, the estate agent, and then the landlord. And things don't get dealt with on time and often drag on for a long period of time. If it was something that we could have dealt with ourselves, then often things can get done a lot faster. The pros of buying in London. As I mentioned before, the investment growth of properties in London has been quite good. So owning a property in London could mean that in the long term, you benefit greatly from capital appreciation. Stable long-term base. Owning a property can offer a sense of security, as you now have a base that you can come back to in a fast-moving city where a lot of things are changing around you. Potential for rental income. The high rental demand in London means that if you ever wanted to leave London but you still owned your property in London, you could quite easily find someone to rent your property at the competitive market rate. This is a great way to make passive income and also help towards whatever rent you're paying wherever you are. The cons of owning in London. High initial costs. Entering the London property market requires a significant investment upfront. When you account for the deposit plus the stamp duty plus any kind of additional costs, this can seriously add up and drain your savings. Ongoing upkeep. Properties in London often require a lot of maintenance on an ongoing basis. If you're not someone that's into DIY and doing it yourself, the costs of these can add up quite a lot, as contractors are not cheap. Market fluctuations. Whilst London has had great price growth over the last 10 years, this last year has shown that it's not perfect and they don't always go up. You're still prone to potential drops in the market, so you need to be wary of that. Mortgage vulnerability. When you're trying to buy a high-priced property, it's more likely than not that you're going to need a fairly large mortgage. And as we've seen in the last year, when interest rates change, this could mean significant impacts on your monthly cash flow if you are someone who has a large mortgage. Contrary to what most people might think, owning a property is not the only sign of success. In London, plenty of successful people rent instead of owning their home. They like the freedom that renting gives them, especially in such a fast-moving city that's always changing. Renting means you can always move if you need to for a new job or for personal reasons. Also, instead of putting the majority of your savings into a house, you can diversify into different kinds of assets, spreading your risk and potentially making you better returns in the long run. The most successful people understand that whilst the roof over your head might make you money in the long term, it should never be considered as an investment. The London housing market is quite special. It's known for very high house prices and for a lot of people wanting to rent. This makes the choice between renting and buying quite tricky. For many, buying in London could be a great goal, but it might not always be feasible. Renting, on the other hand, suits the city's fast-moving style and is often preferred by younger people or international expats. It's important to think about how these things match up with your own money situation and what you want from life. As a financial planner renting in London, I've thought a lot about this whole housing situation. Choosing to rent in London whilst owning outside of London suits my lifestyle best. In the last 5 years, I've lived in 4 different places in London and also was able to live in Bali for 6 months. I still don't know where I want to be long term, and so buying a place just doesn't make sense. Deciding whether to rent or buy in London is definitely not a simple decision. It really comes down to your personal life, your financial goals, and what kind of lifestyle you want to have. Renting offers a lot of flexibility, which means that when you're unsure about where you want to be in 5 years or 10 years, it's an easy option. However, buying can bring a lot of long-term stability. Each choice has its own set of advantages and challenges. If you are still unsure about which option is best for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Using cash flow modeling, we can visually map out how each choice could impact your finances. This can provide you with a much clearer picture and help you to make a decision that actually aligns with your aspirations.